Hey, I'm Jusko from ProudMoney.com. What are the most important features of a credit card and what are the least important features when it comes to making a decision on what card is right for you? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. But first, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe to this YouTube channel if you have not already. And if you have already, I thank you for doing so. So one of the maybe more interesting things of running this channel over the past couple years is reading all the comments and seeing the huge differences that people have in terms of how they look at their credit cards, how they made the decision to get a certain credit card, how they make the decision to keep using a particular credit card. Now, when you go to get a credit card, everybody has sort of a different framework that they are using to decide what is right for them, and that makes sense. People have different preferences, they have different incomes, they have different credit histories, people are very different in general, so everybody comes at it from maybe a little bit different frame. So in this video, we are going to look at some of the many features that credit cards potentially can offer and talk about what may be more important and what may be less important, but I'm also going to talk about sort of what may be more important to certain people and less important to certain people. And I'm going to use myself as sort of the guinea pig here, I guess you could say, and talk about what I think is most important and least important for me, but then walk down why I think it may be most important for me, but it may be different for you. So I started jotting down a list of features that might be sort of decision makers, deal breakers, or not deal breakers. And I realized that there are a lot of potential features that credit cards could have. I came up with a list of 15 sort of main features, but I know that I could break that parts of that list down even further and maybe come up with 20 or 25 of them. So I'm going to run through the 15 and tell them to you in the order that I prioritize them when I get a credit card, but we'll talk about what each one of them is and how you might prioritize them differently. All right, so let's get started. The number one priority for me personally when I am looking for a credit card is rewards. That's what I'm going to look at before anything else. What am I getting for my purchases, whether that's cash back or whether that's some kind of points or miles configuration? I look at that before anything else. Now, rewards is sort of a big category. It's one of those ones that we could split up into more categories because there are also things that come into play here like redemption options, minimum redemptions, are there travel transfer partners, all of these kind of other things that may be not deal killers necessarily, but things that are going to maybe make you like one card or one issuer more than another. So for me, rewards number one. Now I can put rewards number one because I don't have to consider some of the other things that we're going to talk about on this list as much, included things like if I had debt, what the interest rate is on a card and what my credit line is going to be, because most of the time I know I'm going to get a decent credit line, so I don't really have to worry about one issuer versus another, all of those sorts of things. So I can prioritize rewards as my number one feature. For some people, they're going to have to prioritize something else, even if they'd like to put rewards at number one. Number two is the bonus opportunity, and maybe you could make the case that the bonus and the rewards go hand in hand, but the bonus is sort of a one-shot deal, and so that is why I put it separately. So what am I going to get as a new card holder if I spend X amount in the first 3 months or 6 months or whatever, whether that is a cash bonus or whether that's a points bonus or maybe it is a companion certificate or some sort of hotel free nights or whatever that might be. I want to know what that is because that is going to matter to me in deciding whether I want to pick up a new credit card and have the inquiry and account on my credit report and all of that kind of stuff. Now again, I can sort of prioritize bonus over other things for the same reason as rewards. I don't have to worry about what kind of credit lines I'm getting for the most part. I don't have to worry about what my interest rate is. But if you have some debt or you are in a case where you're not necessarily getting very big credit lines, you can't necessarily make the bonus that high of a priority. Now, I told you I'm going to kind of rank 15 features here, but I have to say those first two I just talked about, rewards and bonus, are way beyond the rest of the list. So it's not like it's just 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we go on from there. It's sort of like the planets, like Mercury and Venus kind of close to the sun, and then there's this huge gap before you get to Earth and Mars. I don't know if that's a good analogy or not. But anyway, that's kind of how I think about it. There's a big gap after those first two. That being said, number 3 on the list, or maybe the third planet if you want to continue on with that solar system analogy, is annual fees. Does the card have an annual fee? If so, what is that annual fee, and how does that annual fee correspond to the rewards and bonus that I am getting from the card. So I am not strictly for annual fees or against annual fees. There are plenty of very good no annual fee cards out there. There are cards that are very good that do have an annual fee, and some people completely would shy away from those cards, and I think that is a mistake. But you have to think about, what does it mean, that annual fee, in comparison to what you're getting otherwise with that card. Number 4 is the credit limit. Now, I just said that credit limit wasn't really all that important to me, and it's not, but that shows you kind of, as we go through this list, how far the rest of these features are from that rewards and bonus that I look at. But credit limit still has some importance even to me, because even though I have plenty of credit lines, I want to make sure that any new credit card I get is going to have enough of a credit limit so that I feel like I can use it when I want to. If I get a very small credit line, even if the card's great, I'm not going to be able to use it very much, or I'm always going to be wondering if I'm getting close to the limit that I have on that card. So it still does come into play. Now, for many other people, credit limit is going to be very important, especially if you are newer to credit, or maybe if you are rebuilding your credit history because of the fact that you might not get very big credit lines to begin with. So for many, many people, when they're trying to build things out in terms of a credit history, they are thinking not only what am I getting as an initial credit line, but what are my chances to have that credit line increase over time. Number 5 on my list is perks, and perks is really a huge umbrella because so many things can fall under the perks of a credit card. For me, what I'm talking about with perks are things that maybe you could think of as rewards, but they don't come based just on you doing a specific amount of spending or getting a certain, number of points or cash back for each dollar that you spend. So perks oftentimes we think of as travel perks. That could be things like airport lounge access, even things like not having foreign transaction fees you could think of as a perk on a travel card. Things like restaurant credits or travel credits that you get on many cards would fall under this as well. There's so many different types of perks. Really anything that your card is sort of giving you on top of your rewards. And oftentimes you're going to get more perks that aren't reward based on cards that have an annual fee. So many things fall under here, but for me, I generally don't prioritize the perks very highly. If there are travel credits, or there are restaurant credits, or there's, free baggage on an airline, or any of that kind of stuff, that's usually low priority for me. Nice to haves, but they don't generally come into my personal thinking very strongly. Now, this hasn't always been the case. I used to live in Chicago, and United Airlines had a big presence there, and I'm sure they still do. And my wife used to travel all the time, so we both got United cards because we could, get a free checked bag, and we could get priority boarding and all that kind of stuff that comes along with it. So in that case, the perks were important to me because we already had a lot of miles that we were getting, and we could get even more miles. The whole package made sense. And so for people that do travel a lot, the travel perks and many other perks that come with some of these cards do make sense, and they would put them a lot higher on the priority scale. So if that is you would probably put them higher on the priority scale. But for me personally, usually that is not the thing that sways me too much in getting a card or not getting it. Number 6, customer service. Now, I think most of the major credit card issuers are pretty much the same when it comes to customer service. That's not a bad thing. I think most of them are pretty good. They give you multiple ways to get in contact with them by phone, online, via chat, whatever. So I think most of them are good. The only time that customer service probably comes into play for me is if I was considering getting a card from maybe a smaller bank that I didn't know much about, or maybe a credit union that I knew did not have very many people that worked there to begin with. So I would wonder what their credit or their customer service was going to be like if I had a problem. Now, some people look at the major credit card issuers, and based on their own experience, they think there is a lot of difference between the customer service that they get from them. I don't necessarily see it, but if you have had experience with multiple credit card companies, you might see that differently. Number 7 on that priority list are sort of two things that I'm going to lump together, and I don't know if they should go together or not, but those are ease of approval and ease of application process. So ease of approval, I don't worry too much about because I have a long credit history and a high credit score. So most cards that I want, I'm able to be approved for, unless maybe I've gotten a lot of cards in the recent past and they don't want to give me a new card because of that. But I don't really think of what my credit score is and what my chances are when I look at a card. Now, for many people, that very much is part of the equation. That's going to put it way up higher on their list. Can they be approved? If you have a lower credit score and a card looks really great, but you think there's no way you're going to be approved for it, well, then obviously that card is one that you could, throw off your list. So that is something that's lower priority for me, could be higher for you. Now, ease of application process to me is, can I go online and just, fill out a form and know in 30 seconds or a minute if I'm approved or not? Or am I going to have to go and, jump through some hoops in order to potentially even get approved for the card? So some cards make it very easy. Some of them, or some issuers, are more likely to hold you off on a decision. If you are working with a credit union, especially if it's a smaller credit union, it could take a while. They might ask for more paperwork or more proof of income and all that kind of stuff before they will approve you. So that also is something that comes into play. Number 8, smack dab in the middle, is insurances and protections. Some credit cards will offer you some travel insurances or other protections as well as a perk, if you want to look at it that way, on your card. So things like baggage delay or baggage loss insurance, trip delay, trip cancellation insurance. There's car rental insurances. You have price protection insurance. If you find that the price of something went down after you bought it, you could get the difference. Cell phone insurance has very much become a feature that some cards use to differentiate themselves over the last couple years in particular. So some of these are very nice, and some people really prioritize them highly, would put them way higher on their list of priorities, especially if you are someone that travels often. That baggage insurance and the delay or cancellation insurance are things that you could really see yourself using. For me personally, I've never used any of these insurances. I've never used price protection, have not had to use cell phone insurance, thankfully. So I see them as nice to haves. I don't travel enough where it's sort of inevitable that I'm going to have that bag or trip problem, where some people, if they travel all the time, they know sooner or later they're going to use those things. So for me, a little lower priority, but very much makes sense that for some people it's a much higher priority. All right, now if that last batch of features was sort of like the middle planets, we're now moving out to like Saturn and Jupiter in our solar system analogy. We're getting further and further from what I would consider a priority for me personally. So number 9 is offers, special offers from credit cards. So in this realm, I think of things like Amex offers or Chase offers, and there are others from other issuers where if you spend a certain amount on your card at a certain merchant, you're going to get, maybe more cash back on that particular purchase, or maybe you're going to get a points bonus on that purchase, whatever. And then you also have the shopping portals where if you go through the portal and you shop with a certain merchant, you're going to get more points that way. So either one, they're kind of the same thing in terms of what you are actually getting. I like the idea of them. I like the idea of the offers and using the portals, but I have to say for me personally, it's rare that I either remember to use them when I am making a purchase, or there is an offer that I actually find fits sort of what I would buy anyway. So I see offers and I think, oh, that's a good offer, but then I don't do the offer because I don't really see that I want to make a purchase at that particular retailer at that particular time. And so maybe that's why those offers exist, because they know this is not the time that maybe someone is making purchases from them. So for me, I tend not to use them, even though I think they are a good idea. So that's why they're a little further down the list for me. Obviously, other people who will spend the time to think about these things and it works sort of with their spending pattern would put it higher. Number 10 is access to special events. Now, maybe I should have thrown this in perks, but it felt a little bit different to me. There are some cards out there that will give you early access to concert tickets or theater performances in the biggest cities. I think Amex and Chase will do things where maybe you can meet a celebrity chef or go to a hot restaurant opening or things of that nature. So there are certain events that maybe you can get yourself access to. This is something that I have used maybe once or twice over the time that I've been a card holder. shoulder with some of the issuers. I don't prioritize it very highly because it's really a nice to have. If it happens to work out in my life, great, but I don't ever get a credit card thinking I want access to, Citi's whatever program it's called that allows you to have that access. So some people, maybe especially in those biggest cities, if you're in New York or Los Angeles, maybe there's all kinds of opportunities to take advantage of those special events, but for the rest of the country, less so. Number 11, card design and card material. So some people are very into how their credit card looks and feels. I don't really care so much. If it's an ugly credit card and it's got great rewards and had a great bonus, then I'm perfectly happy to carry it around and stick it in people's faces. When I make purchases, some people want a metal card and they want a cool design, and that is important to them. Low priority for me, higher priority for some people. If I have the choice between a good-looking card and an ugly card and they are, pretty much the same, sure, I would take the better looking one, but not a priority. Number 12 is the credit card's interest rate. Now remember, this is my list and where I prioritize them. I don't really care that much about a credit card's interest rate because for the most part, I'm never going to pay any interest on my credit cards. I'm going to pay them off in full every month, and so I don't have to pay interest. So it doesn't matter what that interest rate is, but every once in a while I'm going to screw up and I'll end up having to pay interest because I paid late or whatever happens. So I'd rather have a lower interest rate than a higher interest rate, but it rarely comes into play for me personally. However, if you're someone that is carrying debt or has a history of carrying debt and you're looking at a new card, you should be putting interest rate very high on your list, perhaps number 1 on your list of priorities. So you want to get the lowest interest rate you can if you're ever going to be paying interest. You should prioritize interest rate even over things like rewards and bonuses if you are going to end up paying more in interest than you would ever get from those things. Number 13 is 0% offers, and this kind of goes hand in hand with interest rate, but it's also a little bit different. So many cards have 0% offers where you're going to get a 0% interest rate on purchases for a certain amount of time, maybe 12 or 15 months. You could get 0% on balance transfers, balances from higher interest cards that you transfer onto the new card. You can let them sit there at a 0% rate for a while. So for me, this is fairly low priority because I don't really use either of those things. But for some people, those are very good offers. If you know you're going to make a big purchase and you can get a new credit card and get a 0% rate, you can make a purchase today and stretch it out essentially over 12 or 15 months if that's the offer and never pay any interest on it. Same thing with balance transfers. If you have a high interest balance on another credit card and you can move it to that other or to the new card and get 0% for a while, that is something that you are going to prioritize much higher than some of the other things on this list. All right, 2 more features to talk about as far as I'm concerned. These are the least important. You can think of them as your farthest out, least important planets, the Neptune and Uranus. All right, number 14, I'm kind of lumping together contactless technology and things like Apple Pay, Google Pay, Samsung Pay, that kind of stuff. So anything that allows you to sort of pay without having to actually give someone your card or stick it in a machine or whatever. So some of it is just kind of tap and pay stuff, and then the other things are, putting it in your phone and being able to pay with your phone. I don't care too much about any of those things. For me personally, I'm fine pulling out my credit card and using it in the way that I always have, but some people really like them and they prefer them, and maybe they even get some extra rewards or something for using their cards in those other ways. So some people are going to put them a lot higher on their priority list than I am going to. I don't know how many people would make their decisions on a card based on having this or not having this, but if 2 cards were sort of the same, maybe that would tip the scales. And then number 15 is the card's mobile app. Some people do everything with their credit card via that app, and so it is going to have some importance to them. They're going to make payments through it. They're going to keep track of their rewards. Everything is going to go through that app, so a good app experience means something. To me, I don't care that much. Sometimes I pay through the app, sometimes I don't, but unless an app really stinks, I don't think too much about it. And sometimes I'm even annoyed if the only way to do something is through the app, because I feel like it's just a way to force me into the app to try to get me to do something that I don't necessarily want to do. But for some people, the app is hugely important. For some people, like me, not important at all. All right, so that's my priority list based on my own preferences, my own credit history, everything that is important to me. Hopefully, as we went along the list, if you're someone who's thinking about your own cards that you might get or that you have in your wallet already, you would think about what that priority list should be for you. If you have a longer credit history, maybe yours is going to be closer to my list. If you have a shorter credit history, maybe you're going to be thinking more about things like credit lines and ease of approval and all of that kind of stuff as well. Maybe the interest rate is going to be very important to you. Maybe those 0% offers are going to be very important to you. So there are a lot of different features that different credit card companies use to try to bring in different people. So it makes sense to kind of know what your priorities are before you go looking for a card so you can figure out what matches as well as possible your needs. So that's it. I'd love to hear your list, your priorities, why they are your priorities. Put those in the comments section below. Otherwise, I thank you for watching. And as always, please go to proudmoney.com where we do credit card reviews, we talk personal finance, we talk deals, and all sorts of other fun stuff too. Thank you for watching. Bye.